Are you trying to succeed in something? Or you put a goal out there or an intention, and we'll talk about intentions today. And a challenge comes up like almost straight away, or like right at the beginning. And then you're like, oh my God, this is hard, right? Well, today I'm going to talk about being tested on your intentions and how you move through this. And if you stay until the end, I've got something special for you then as well. Now, just before we dive in today, I wanted to mention that if you want to keep up to date of all the latest episodes and have a free weekly confidence tip, all you got to do is subscribe to our free confidence newsletter. And you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Okay, so I noticed this even recently, that when I put an intention out there, like I'm going to be more loving today, or this week, or really focus on being from this place of love. And I've been reading a lot of spiritual books recently, and I genuinely believe, I know we all got different views, and I know and I think that's beautiful. I think that's wonderful. I also believe we shouldn't hurt other people from our own views. That's just my perception. But one of the things I'm picking up is love, right? That's our nature, and that's who we are. We'll sort of one, yet we separate ourselves with all these different views and things like that, right? Now, I had an intention to be love, right, to people. Now, there's a thing called unconditional love, and that's very challenging to be. Now, the deep spiritual masters of people really go inside themselves. They separate themselves from society for a bit to really reflect on these kind of things. You know, the stories that they've achieved, unconditional love. This is when you love someone regardless of whatever thing they've done, no matter how horrific. Now, obviously, there's some cases in life where that is always going to be impossible for some people. So it's very hard, you know, things like war and attacks and things like that. To love those individuals is something that you need to work on unconditional love for years. Now, I try and be loving as much as possible. So like minor things like someone, you know, disagrees with me or they're a little bit rude to me. Obviously, I don't stand for that. I'm not like, oh, that's okay to be rude to me. It's, you know, I will stand for my beliefs, but I want to be in a place where I'm loving towards people because they've got their own views and they're coming from different places, right? As much as possible, right? I'm not in that place where horrific things from people can, you know, I can just shake that off and be like, I love them no matter what. You know, when you're, I believe, when you're able to get to that level, you're kind of up there in the highest levels of consciousness, and that's a lifetime work, right? And there's some great spiritual leaders who can get there. You know, you got people like Nelson Mandela who was able to forgive for being put away in prison for years, right? You got Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Amazing book if you haven't read it. It really shows like the lovingness of a human being in the worst circumstances. Now, that's very, very challenging, I believe, to achieve, but it's possible because these people have achieved it, right? So I'll put something out like being loving to people. And I had a situation with an individual last year, and admittedly, it now and then comes up, not as strongly, but it can really test my emotions, let's say, when something like kind of comes up around that situation, right? And for me, I'll put an intention to be loving, and then something will come up like someone in a professional setting will say something that is a bit patronizing, is a bit inconsiderate, or something like that, right? Or I'll get a load of annoying messages, for example, of, right, I'm going to call you out right now. People who are saying they can improve my YouTube channel. And I get about 10 pitches on this a day, right? Okay, so that's an example. And those kind of things really, because I know like the experts I would go to if I want to improve these things, right? But I get, you know, those are examples or just things coming at me, which are real minor in comparison to some of these great spiritual leaders. And I'll put that intention, I'm going to be loving. And what will come up is something to really test that straight away. And I know we've got different views, but for me, I think that's almost a spiritual assignment. It's like life saying, right, here you go. Did you really mean it? Okay. Now, you can choose at this moment, am I going to give up on this intention and then play circumstance of life and what it throws me and just not feel in control? Or am I really going to hold my ground and practice this muscle of resilience, of courage, and really hold this intention? It's completely up to you. It's not easy. That's what I'm saying, right? um, you know, it's sometimes like now and then I've like not massively lost my temper, but perhaps been a bit more direct than if I was fully loving, like not in a nice guy kind of please you kind of way, but maybe I could have been a little less direct, let's say. So I'm gonna go through some ways in a minute. Just a few, keep it very simple today about how you can really stick to your intentions and therefore build your confidence and trust of inside yourself. But I want to ask you this: if you're like you keep getting caught out by external things thrown at you from life, how does that serve you? Because you're anything like me. If I used to be in this place where everything was dependent on like what happened around me, rather than what I set for myself and being in control of my own emotions, and it wasn't a good place. So here's what I'm going to suggest. The first thing, set an intention to something in your control, right? Don't like put an intention that a person's going to do something for you, because guess what? That is not in your control. Don't set an intention that a certain business scenario or career scenario is going to pan out in your way, because guess what? That's not in your control either. You can put an intention to be loving though, as much as possible for your day. You can put an intention that you're going to give it your all on your assignment. And then if, I don't know, the day interrupts you or something horrific happens, that's you, like, extreme circumstance. That's you at least putting the efforts in, right? Put an intention towards something that is in your control, right? And you'll know, and rather than just like putting things not in your control. Okay. The second one, link an emotion to the game, right? So as a game. So what I mean by this is if you put an intention to and to be loving, I really want you to attach to that loving feeling. Really feel it when you put it, right? So put some kind of feeling to your intention. And the third step of this, tell somebody. Like when I've been accountable, it's much more likely to have it. Now, write it down. I always write down my intentions, but when you write down things, it'll make it more real because you're seeing it, you're writing it, you're moving it. There's a whole load of science around that. But when you tell someone as well, that's going to make it even more likely to happen as well. Now, I've got a bonus point for you as well. But just before that, I want to mention that if you want to keep up to date with all the latest episodes and not miss any and get a free weekly confidence tip, once again, you can subscribe to our free weekly newsletter that's linked in the show notes below. Okay, my bonus point I want to say is visualize it and feel it. We talked a little bit about running it down, feeling it, and then being in your control. Visualize yourself being that intention. You want to be more loving to people? Each morning, you write it down, feel it, see it, spend 5 minutes visualizing it. See yourself being a kind, loving individual, maybe giving to the homeless person, maybe giving someone a compliment, maybe holding the door open for someone. Just visualize yourself being a loving person. If your intention is to put your effort into something, a task in that day, and the best you can do, unless an extreme emergency comes in, visualize yourself, see yourself doing that, really feel that productivity and that effort going in, because your brain doesn't know the difference between fake and reality. And when you can start putting that image in your mind, it's going to encourage you to do more of it, and then praise yourself, of course, for doing that, because that'll make your nervous system want to do more of it. So that's what I got for you today. I wanted to talk about being tested when you set an intention and what you can really do about it. So I appreciate you for being here, and you are improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.